A very good morning. This is Dr. Mahadevan here. We'll be starting, or we'll be beginning in 5 minutes from now. Thank you. Good morning, a good day to the speaker, delegates, and event coordinators. Today we gather for another interactive session with our speaker, Mr. Muhammad Akmal Ahmad, a senior librarian at University Science Malaysia. Before we begin, a few lines on Mr. Muhammad Akmal. Mr. Muhammad Akmal Ahmad comes with more than a decade of experience in research support services, digitalization, journal indexing, and information services. A recipient of the Promising Young Malaysian Librarian Award year 2019, he is a member of the Malaysian Open Science Platform, an alliance member of the Academy of Sciences Malaysia, which serves as a statutory agency for the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation of Malaysia, and a member of the Working Committee of the Citation and Infometrics Center for the Ministry of Higher Education Malaysia. Delegates, before we begin, let me remind the session of the ground rules. Kindly mute your microphones except for the speaker. The session will be open for interaction when the presenter requires you to do so. You may unmute to post your questions, comments, or concerns then. Finally, this session is an hour long. Without further ado, let us welcome Mr. Muhammad Akmal for this interactive session on awareness of fraudulent practices in scholarly publishing. Mr. Muhammad Akmal. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mahadevan, for the introduction. Hi everyone, good morning. Hopefully you are all in a good shape and healthy. Before that, I would like to congratulate for the 50 years anniversary for the School of Communication. And then I would like to congratulate to all delegates for their presentations, for their research works, as well as attending for this workshop lah. All right, today we will discuss on the awareness. Let me share the slide. Awareness of fraudulent practices in scholarly publishing. Okay, everyone can see my slide here. Okay. Okay. So my name is Muhammad Akmal. I'm librarian in University of Science Malaysia. I have working about 10 years in University of Science Malaysia. So in the experience of 10 years, I've also working with many agencies, collaboration agencies, partner agencies, such as for this one, Working Committee of the Citation and Informatics Center, Ministry of Higher Education Malaysia since year 2018. And then this what call agency is established under MOHE because to enhance or improve journal management capabilities among public agencies that is responsible to manage the publication as well as the scholarly journals. I myself represent the University Science Malaysia, what call penyelaras or what call is manager for the journal index system. And actually, there are another department in University of Malaysia. They call it Penerbit USM or Public Publishing Department. They are in charge in terms of overall of the system, journal system, especially for the peer review process. So that's another part. But myself is ensuring the visibility of the USM journal articles so that it follow the standard of the international index system. And that's the website. If you want to visit or get detail more about this website, you can access that website. Next, I also working in the right now working with the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation in accordance with the partnership with the Academy of Sciences Malaysia, as well as represent for the USM in terms of managing open science, what we call awareness. Okay, right now we have open science trend that hampering or happen in the developed countries. Every countries now develop ecosystem to enhance the capabilities in terms of transparency, accountability of the research work. Because in the recent 10 years back, there are a lot of issue in terms of fake data, fake research data, and then fake publication. So in terms of getting more transparent in terms of research work, they come out with the open science and make it as a legislative order for the researchers as well as the practitioners. Okay, so this is the current things that happen in the ministry level as well as the Academy of Science Malaysia. So my my part is to develop a capacity and building as well as awareness among researchers as well as the staff in University of Science Malaysia. So in this year, we have a lot of program conducted by the library administrators, by library staff. We enhance we launch what called a website as well as the department, as well as develop, as well as establish a department that in charge with the research support service to support the open science activities. All right. For your information, nowadays recently, okay, scholarly publishing is very get more huge attention by many stakeholders as well as communities. Not only amongst the scholars circle, okay, but nowadays the scholarly publishing has been concerned by a lot of parties, a lot of stakeholders, such as the grant providers, the ministry, the legislator, officer, parliamentaries, even the judicial use the any scholarly material for court sessions. This is the things that happen right now. So in part of macro entities, the established entities amongst the funders, scholars, they are also the macro entities right now. So when we publish an article, they will be bring a huge impact for all these stakeholders as well as communities. And in the control of or monitor the performance of the scholarly publishing, they now have scientometrics agencies, and they also have scientometric scientists that monitor the performance of the scholarly publishing. Right. When we talk about the published research paper, right, we being reminded that we publish for the novelty recognition, for sharing, to get rightful interpretation about our data from the experts of the subject matters, okay, and then get the feedback of the variability, and then as well as communicating the information. This is kind of the on why we publish the research papers. But actually, the reality in the current years, 3-4 years, actually we just do it for the fact in terms of fulfill key the performance indicator, in terms of for the graduation, for the sake of the graduations requirement, as well as for the academic career promotion, right? So this is the real thing happen in the last 3-4 years. And when we do the case study, we acknowledge that the workforce of the publication for this KPI has emerged the Machiavellism in scholarly publishing. As long as published, that's it, due to the needs of the KPI. And we detect some of the irresponsible publishing companies, as well as journal management team, has taken advantage for these matters, and they manipulate, deceive, and exploit the researchers to generate material profits. Okay, this is very dangerous. And for us as researchers, we should never take for granted. We need to scrutinize the scholarly publishing whenever we have to. Okay, so for your information, when we talk about business of scholarly publishing, we can relate this kind of things happen for the other sectors. For example, the filmmakers, now they come up with a new business model and do some smart partnerships, right? For example, Marvel joint venture with Disney, come up with a lot of products and films, right? And generate a lot of gross profits, as well as DC Comics. They partner with the Warner Brothers and then generate a lot of products and services. Same goes with the scholarly publishing. Okay, now a lot of companies appear or establish in the scholarly publishing world, and as you can see here, the leading of company is the Walex Group. They generate a lot of gross profit and increase every year. Okay, since 2015, they generate million of euro dollars, okay, as well as USD dollars, okay. And various groups has come up a lot of products and services and try to dominate all those what called the scholarly works, in terms of making it more, the research work more efficient, more effective, right? And throughout the research cycle, there are a lot of products that can support to make it more easier. And relax groups, if I acknowledge or notify some of product is not developed by them, they willing to buy the ownership of the products. For example, Mendeley is developed by the other parties, but valued groups have bought it, the ownership, and make it as their part of product and services. Okay. In the current trend also, they reflect that researchers will currently excessively and pay a lot of money. And they also request for the management to subscribe the Journal Citation Index, the management services in Scopus, and the Web of Science. And that university have to pay a lot of $1 billion to them, right? In the sense of two rely, or two depending on that kind of service, we notice that the researchers unnoticed that they will become a fraudulent victims and are able to anticipate future risks. And this is happened. It reached a total of 324 such pediatric journals, right, successfully infiltrate the Scopus system. And then the Scopus system also not clear up about this kind of journal. And those researchers, especially the Malaysian right now, part of it has been being victimized in the sense of this kind of practice, irresponsible of the journal team, journal management team. And even Scopus in the current years, they exclude those journals, but the past records has been, still keep it. And for your information, when once the journal have bad reputations, it will stick forever, you know. So that kind of article probably not being recognized by other new researchers to be cited and so on. So the effect of the reputation, especially the citation of the article later on. So for you as a researcher, for me as a researcher too, okay, so how exactly then we can determine the in terms of published article in trustworthy scholarly journal, as well as avoid the trap of the predatory scholar. In the same time, we can reduce the risk as being unintentionally victim to the KPI system, as well as the journal index system. So I will give some example, but maybe of the example is not fully meet the communication studies. Nevertheless, the shared methods will usually can be utilized in the same way as other fields, including the scholarly, including the communication studies. Okay. Okay, the answer for that questions, 3 questions, exactly for you, you need to develop your own spin-off journal criteria based on your background of the research field, as well as initiate investigations based on these things that I will share. Okay, the first thing that you need to do when you do or initiate the investigation is investigate the controversy about the journal. This is the first thing. It's not the reputations, okay, but these things are the controversy of the journal. When you search name of journal, get to know about any journal that potentially to publish, you need to search if this journal have any controversy. Okay, I think many of us experience in the as a journalist, you know how to investigate on the internet, right? So, for example, you found something like this, the Journal of Informatics. Okay, if appear the details, right? And then I Google back again on the another page at the news page of Google, and then I found this kind of news, published by any follower of the scholarly publishing or the experts of the scholarly publishing trend. They mentioned about this kind of this journal have controversy whereby the editor or the pioneer editor who developed, established this journal stepped down, resigned, because the publisher not willing to follow their requests in terms of making less expensive journal fees in terms of APC, article processing charges. The publisher declined their request. Although at the first stage when they developed this journal, the owner of the journal have good relationship, right? Elsevier macam bagai datang minyak yang penuh lah, okay? They are good deals, sweet talkers to the journal founders that they will help them to make it more easy to access by the user and so on. At the end, when the relationship more than 10 years relationship is not good, they have to divorce, right? Or resign. Okay, so editor have resigned. So this kind of controversy whereby the publisher is not willing to listen to the people who are actually work hard to develop this kind of journal. And the person, the leader of this founder of the journal, named as Ludo Workman, he's resigned with his team, as well as a founding editor, and they go to another new journal, develop a new journal, okay, the new journal, named as the Quantitative Science Studies, and have a host by the MIT. And when they develop a new journal with a good team, same team, the journal is what called go back or develop a good track because they have a good follower too, good researcher too, and a lot of researchers run away from the Journal of Informatics, go to this quantitative science studies. So at the end, the informatics is left behind, and quantitative science studies goes up as a new good journal. So another example here, as you can see, is issue with the pseudonym names, whereby this journal, a new journal of controversy ideas, try to make it allow authors to use the pseudonym, but it has a controversy in terms of trust as well as academic integrity. If there is article have fake information and then get a sue, who will be responsible? So this is kind of controversy of journal. And another recent, the current one, the latest one, issue in terms of journal accept fake information, and they detect the writer is a ghost writer, not the actual author from the universities or the real author. So this kind of controversy happened, and the journal management team is not very cautious about handling this kind of manuscripts before being published. Okay, so you as a researcher, if you can, if you able, please be careful with this kind of journal. Okay, second things, you need to investigate the editor's background based on reputation and recognition received from any public-owned organization. Why public-owned organization? Because public-owned organizations usually have a crucial bureaucracy system. They're very strict on that. So public-owned organization most have strict, make it a perfect, try to make it perfect of editor for any journal. Okay, they have a good what you call developing process in terms of making every researchers or academician recognized by people as well as their colleagues. And be careful in terms of fixed editors, and there is a lot of journal right now, they do have fixed editors. So you need to check details on the websites or the details on the boards. If is it really they publish clearly or transparently the person in charge of the journal. For example, these contact numbers, if they put a Gmail as the contact, please be careful. Okay, it's not professional enough as the journal website. So this is another example. This kind of journal is mentioned about this name, professor. But when I check, the name is not appear on the school website. So it's kind of fake editor for this website. So be careful of this kind of journal. This is good example as authentic and trustworthy example. If you are manage a journal later on, okay, you can refer this kind of example lah. Whereby when I go to the first page, they mention the name, the editor, the who publisher, who are joint venture, okay, and the SSN and so on. If have impact. But the things that I want to show here, the editor of this journal since 1970 or something, they usually appoint the public organization, public universities. Okay, for example, the Marius Maker here is from University of Auckland. When I did check, it's a real person. He is the top handling editor, recipients of awards, and a lot of experience. But in last 2 years, he's stepped out and give to chance or give the what call position to the another professor to to handling the journals. Okay, so this is a good journal lah. They developed in Australia, in New Zealand, but internationally recognized. Okay, based in New Zealand, but internationally recognized. So as you as a researcher, you have not, please do not rely on anything that appear on the journal website, but you have to get more details about the background of editors, the most important thing. Okay, number 3 is investigate the journal peer review system. Okay, in the peer review system, there are a lot of steps, there are a lot of process, but you have to make sure what kind of systematic and trustworthy peer review process that the journal practice. Okay, this kind of studies that done by the Bradley Elif, that he tried to submit a loose manuscripts, not good manuscript. He tried just test one of the predatory journal lah, and suddenly they be accept without any amendment, something like that. So he was shocked because that predatory journal is handling by the good professor, right? So he just test the submissions, but it's shocked. It's been reviewed and accept to publish. So he give a note and publish it on the blog and remind to the other researchers about this kind of findings. This case study has been done by him. So he mentioned if you if you submit to any journal, please check how far, how detailed the peer review process or system be applied. For example, for this, Wiley has clearly mentioned what kind of process or variable that researcher will face. Okay, this kind of transparency, timing, and so on. Right. In terms of rejection, also some of the journal clearly define about what kind of rejections that been done, what kind of reason that been done. So this is good. What called journal lah. It's declare what kind of what kind of rejection that not be accepted. It's not just a format, but in terms of peer review process. Okay, the content, the validity of the research finding, the data, and so on. They clearly define. So be careful on the journal when you also find when you successfully publish, some of the body, authority body will push the journal to restrict your paper if you suddenly accept by this kind of journal. And there are a lot of authority body will close or block this kind of website, and your article will not find in any Google search engine and so on. So be careful on that. And another thing is when you deal with the peer review process, some of the journal request the guest editor from you, your suggestions. But when you suggest some of editors, please make sure the prominent researchers or good background of researchers. Otherwise, the journal management will force on you or not accept your article because you are not proper give a suggestion. If you know name, you just mention to the general management team. It depend on your recommendation. I don't have a name, something like that, so that they can handle or request or look for any guest editors. Okay, so many papers, when many researchers, when they suggest that the guest editors, they have a problem in terms of reviewing the technical findings on the research article or manuscripts, and when once you publish, they have to retract back again the articles. Number 4, you need to investigate the journal registration and ownership legitimacy. What kind of registration and ownership legitimacy that I mean here is that in terms of the legitimacy of the organizations. Okay, for example here, in governmental order, they have segments of public sector organizations and private sector organizations. Public sector organization, they have a law and order in terms of brand names and registration and so on. For example, for research institute, usually used by the public sector organizations, okay, and they register under certain act, under certain statute or organization like university and so on. If stand alone as private sector organization, it's not feasible, right? It's developed bogus, and because there's no control in terms of legislative or law law regulations. So when you use the research institute as the private entities, you need to go to the public-private partnerships. Like under MOSTI, they have academic science measure, and then academic science measure have private connection with Pharmadiaga, and they come up with the labs, pharmacy lab and so on. Probably lab research institute, something like that. UC Science Malaysia also have here pharmacy institute. So something like that. If stand alone as private, they cannot use as a research institute. They need to use name as private limited or other corporate names. Okay, and in Malaysia we are very strict about this. We don't want illegal associations or organizations appear in or established in Malaysia. So every entities need to register according to the act or law. If you business, you have to register under Business Registration Act. If you are public organization, you need, or as a non-government organization, you need to register at the Registrar Society here. For example, here you see at the Registrar ROS website here, Persatuan Pendidik Komunikasi Malaysia appear here. Means that this association has been registered and active. Okay, every year have to do the AGM and so on. Okay, and same example for international association. For example, Australian Journal of Dermatology just now. It's mentioned here, it's officially journal of the Learned Society, the Australasian College of Dermatologists, and New Zealand Dermatology Societies. When I double check on this kind of status of these NGOs or learned societies, they actually registered it. Okay, registered it under certain ministries as well as the department government, so that they make it as a legitimate, secure, and trustworthy organizations. Okay, so this is another example. But another thing is that when they registered, the journal is listed under the Learned Society. Some of the Learned Society can get privilege in terms of giving people who fund the society in terms of tax redemptions. So when you pay money for the APC whatsoever, directly you are contribute or you can get a tax redemption, but you have to check again whether the owner of the journal or the society have registered to any listings of agency that have tax redemptions. Okay, so this kind of thing, if you have a high status, usually you can get the learned society have a privilege to get a tax redemption, and then you have privilege when you pay to publish, right? You have what called privilege to get a tax redemptions. So learned society that manage the journal registered and legitimate, they're usually prominent in terms of maintaining high standard quality in terms of formatting their subject matters. And then they return back any income, the profit that get to the scholarly community, not for just the sake of the business. Okay. And then the learned society that own the journal, right? And then the journal that registered under the society has substantially interlinked with the commercial publishing, for example, SAB whatsoever. But they more dominant. Any decisions, any policy, they still control. Okay, not happen like Journal of Informatics just now show you because they have a biased deal, then a severe dominant on that kind of negotiation. And when the editor, the management of the team try to request something, there is severe dominant to reluctant to follow the request, and then you have no control. But if you have a strong society, right, when deal the private entities, the learned society have a good control of the journal and they know how to make it the quality in terms of technical as well as the management. Okay, learned society tend to make it lower, they do good business. Okay, this where support from the funders, then they have a lower subscription price. Okay, society that own the journal, that registered the journal, also have the intention to seeking a higher level of openness in terms to the public interest rather than commercial values. This is kind of good journal that owned by the legitimate learned societies. Okay, number 5 is about investigate the journal misleading and fake metrics, especially the safe side. We as researchers need to check whether this journal is really listed in Scopus, really listed on website, and so on. Be careful on the journal that declare or proclaim about their new metrics. Okay, pseudo metric, fake metrics. This is very dangerous. For example, right now there is a new metric called a side factor. Okay, when I check the side factor, who are the behind the people, associations, or people who manage this is unknown, anonymous. Okay, and full of ambiguity. So when I Google it, the advisory boards, it's not appear on the website on Google. I don't know who the person who manage this kind of agency to verify or give a recognition for any journal to have a good citations. Okay, so this example of the website or the journal that mentioned they have received a certificate of indexing. However, when I check the indexing company agencies, it's not legit and full of ambiguity. Okay. In terms of self-citation issues, okay, there is initiative that you need to check, use the Scopus and Web of Science or other similar tool in Google. There is an issue whereby the journal editors has requests to the authors who want to publish to their journal to cite their paper. This is wrong. Okay, this is wrong. It's not good practice. Okay, when you try to communicate with editor, make sure when the editor suggests to cite his paper or her paper, you need to reluctant to do that. You just need to cite their paper if there is a purpose of academic purpose. Okay, so if too much self-citation for this journal, they will interrupt the good assessment of the journal, right? And develop a favoritisms in the citations. And this is how you check. Example, when you go to the Scopus, you see the data, you can check by year. For example, the Journal for Nature, Climate Change here, they have 16 self-citation in year 2000, quite low for me. Not more than 100. It's quite good. Only the paper for that year 109, and self-cited is 60 is still good. But this one is better one. The search journal, right? ICMC journal that selected a paper we will publish on this year. For this year, I don't find any self-citation. That's a good journal in terms of monitoring their quality in terms of their citations. Okay, another example in the citation index, journal citation report, big data and society. This journal is good listed here because every year they will try to reduce self-citation impact. And the current here we see that they have a lowest self-citation. So that means that this is good, the journal. Number 6, you need to investigate the authenticacy of the journal website. Okay. What kind of authenticacy of a journal website that you need to check in terms of the first thing, who manage the journal. Okay, just now I said about the legitimacy, trustworthy agency, public agency who are managing. This journal is mentioned that managed by American Relation Network Scientific, INC. Then mentioned that INC is one international non-profit organization. But however, I cannot find this organization is under registered what kind of legitimate international governmental registry agency. Is it United Nations, American governments, or whatever? So cannot find it. So I assume this journal is not very well managed. And when I saw the website is .com, intentionally it's not a non-profit. Non-profit organization should be registered on the website .org, not .com. So intended, so this journal is actually a business agency. It's not a non-profit agency. So for me, it's bogus predatory journals. And UKM agree with it. UKM has mentioned this organization, any journal that controlled by this agency is a predatory journal. Another thing, and when you found in any website or journal website on the internet, make sure it's not duplicate or fake website. Try to scam researchers. Okay, there is a difference between most of original websites and the fake website. You can check where the host, right, the IP address of the host of the website, whether it's originally based on the journal itself. For example, this journal is based as Ireland, I think, Iceland. So the website should be used the host IS because they represent the Iceland host names. Whereas the fake is used .com, something like that, .com. So it's kind of trap to the researchers. And when I check, the contact person is hidden, and this similar happen here. So this is very dangerous for the researchers. You need to be careful on this. Another thing is the website that really copy paste all the article from the authentic journal, but they rename it in another, put it in another journal. This happened to the UPM researcher, lecturers, professor. She has published the article at the International Journal of Environment.
Mr. Muhammad Akmal, you have 15 minutes left.
Oh, okay. International Journal of Environmental Science and Development. But suddenly he found that her article content, exactly the words, is being replicated by another website. So this kind of practice is very dangerous. That now the website has been taken down. The website is no more. Okay, and her article is safely remain at the original website as well as the original journal. Okay, another thing is now Elsevier or under well-published company develop a mirror journal, open access mirror journal. This is bad practice for me because the mirror journal is not represent the original journal, because original journal has been have been good prestigious, have good reputation. Suddenly they replicate or get create a new journal because of open access. Okay, Elsevier tried to do that because give another chance to the researcher who want to accept the article in their journal. But this is not good practice, and in the long period, it's not sustainable in terms of the original one. The reputation one has been listed in the Web of Science and Scopus, but this one, the mirror journal is not listed in Scopus and Elsevier. If researchers doesn't realize that this kind of journal is not listed, and then they not meet the KPI, the graduation requirement, that can be a problem for the researchers. So be careful on the mail journal. If you need to prioritize the KPI, do not choose this kind of mail of journal. Okay, that's it. 6 things that for the you need to do, investigate in terms of avoid the fraudulent scholarly publishing. And in terms of archiving a platform, I would like to remind all the researchers, when you want to put your manuscripts on the trustworthy, there are a lot of issue. For example, for instance, in the ResearchGate and academia. Okay, for your information, the issue is now in the developed countries, they try to develop a good practice in terms of digital scholarly communications. Among the stakeholders, they come up with the fair principle, whereby they have to ensure that any system that use to archive those material, the manuscript and so on, must follow this kind of principle, fair principle, findable, accessible, interpretable, and reusable. So what kind of the principle that apply to this kind of digital scholarly question is actually in terms of research digitalizations, in terms of useful of electronic system. Like previously at the first stage, when we used on internet, we use the HTML, we use the blog, we use the forum and so on, that we call it hypertext. And then we publish on the certain website, we keep some file and so on, we call it as content management. And then we use the journal databases to download the article and then submit to the journal publishing, and then manage it and through the journal databases and so on. And currently, people are in the developed country, they are focused on good practice in terms of open access repositories, so that they will uphold the public rights, especially for any researcher that funded by the public money. Okay, so anything that they archive in the open access repository, we have to follow the fair principle just now. As in continue with the open access repository, then also have discussion about the research data management, big data, and then AI. So this kind of things also try to develop the fair practice, but they still scattered in terms of practice. So again, be careful when you use the open repository provided by the private company, such as academia or ResearchGate. You need to refer back your fund provider, whether is allowed to use this kind of repositories. But the thing is, it's much better if you prioritize your deposit manuscript in the institutional repositories. For example, USM, we have a repository, ePrints repository. We archive all those open access material. It doesn't matter the journal articles, but also we archive manuscripts, speaker notes, anything that have a historical values and academical values. So we put there. So we USF has controlled institutional repository quite long, since 2005, and those material is available there. Even the grey literature material we also keep, as long as it's allowed to access by the public. And when we keep it, those systems have to follow, adapt the metadata standards, and the journal websites also need to follow the metadata standards when we manage it, so that we index properly on the website. These things that I do for all the USM journal articles, follow the fair data, and we make sure they follow the principle of accessibility, interpretability, findability, and usability, so that the bibliography is well enough transparent. And this is kind of example of the Dublin Core metadata standard. And when you archive the material, make sure they kind of have this kind of interface to ensure any website, any journal website, any repository website have follow the metadata standard practice. This kind of template interface. Okay, as a conclusions, just now I'll share you about 6 investigation procedure need to be executed to avoid you as researchers getting caught up in fraudulent scholarly publishing. Researchers need to know about how the legitimate and authentic journal management team should behave to create sustainability, trustworthy scholarly publishing research. And then I mentioned that even prestigious journal could not sustainably maintain good reputation if the journal management team have turned away their focus to follow high standard practices. And then I would like to remind again, be careful when you use any open repository provided by private company. You may be on risk breach of research funder contract. This is some of basic criteria by the advocates that's where we fight about the predatory journal. You can follow some of the basic criteria that highlighted by this team. I think that's it for me. You can probably.
Thank you, Mr. Muhammad Akmal. Undeniably worthy information for academicians and researchers. So kindly investigate the legitimacy of journals and the background of editors. Dear delegates and academicians, before that, Mr. Muhammad Akmal, can we go for one question if there are any questions?
Yes, sure, can.
Yeah. Delegates, you may post your questions. We'll take one question if you have. If not, then we shall proceed. I think everyone is clear about what you have presented, Mr. Muhammad Akmal. Dear delegates and academicians, thank you for attending this session. We do hope that this session has been fruitful. Our utmost appreciation and gratitude to Mr. Muhammad Akmal for spending your valuable time. Thank you, Mr. Muhammad Akmal. And before we adjourn, let us all switch on our cameras for a photo session.
Dear participants, if you can, please turn on your webcam and we will be taking a quick group photo. If you wish to, you can also take a screenshot of on your laptop as well. So we wait a few more moments for everyone to be ready. Okay, so I believe that we are okay. So do look into your webcam as I count down to the group photo. 3, 2, 1. All right. Thank you, dear delegates.
Again, thank you to everyone. We may adjourn to attend the parallel sessions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Akmal.
Welcome, Dr. Ju.